Hi, welcome to Studio JW. I'm Gabriela Geselowitz. I'm here with Laurence Maslon and Michael Kantor. They have written Superheroes, Capes, Cowls, and the Creation of Comic Book Culture. It's in conjunction with the documentary that aired recently on PBS. So thanks for being here with us.
Thank you. Thanks.
So just to start off, there have been a lot of comic books and books about comic books. What's special about this book? Why now? Why this book?
Well, I think one thing we could be legitimately proud of is that we took 5 years to make the documentary, and we were able to interview a wealth of amazing talents, including a number of great titans of comic book artistry who passed away. Among them Joe Kubert, Joe Simon, Carmine Infantino, and Jerry Robinson among them. And their first-person accounts are right here in the book.
And the other thing is, yes, there are a lot of books about comic books. Usually they're one team or the other. They're usually Marvel books or DC books. But because of the licensing of the documentary that Michael produced and directed, we have every hero. We were able to get every hero from 1938 up to the present.
So in terms of the Jewishness of comics in America, it's something I've sort of seen played around with a lot and tossed around, the sort of question of why were so many of the original comic book greats Jewish, or immigrants or the sons of immigrants?
Well, we didn't consult a rabbi on this project, nor is this really a sociological study. It's more of a historical study that looks at why what these heroes reflect about America. That said, you're pointing out that there are innumerable great creators: Jacob Kurzberg, who becomes Jack Kirby, Stanley Martin Lieber, who of course is Stan Lee, who were Jewish and were proud to be Jewish. So how to answer your question? I think it's one of those kind of broad outsiders who are trying to make it in an industry, and that industry welcomes them, whereas other industries don't.
The comic book industry was pretty much created from the ground up. If you were a good artist or an illustrator, you couldn't really maybe you couldn't get a Yale education, maybe you couldn't go to one of these expensive illustration schools. So this was a way in to become an artist, because if you had talent, they didn't discriminate. But the Jewish religion also has great heroic characters like the Golem, for instance, which Michael Chabon used to such great effect in Cavalier and Clay. So maybe there is something about wanting a hero that responds to the oppression of a people that may just be sort of a nice interior monologue for Jewish artists and writers.
So do you think it was subconscious, or do you think they were putting in bits of their childhood, or that it was just sort of reflexive?
Well, I think, as Michael said, some of it's not subconscious at all. It's conscious. I want to get a job. How do I get a job in the Depression? I'm a good artist. I'll go to comic books because I can't draw for the Saturday Evening Post. But a lot of superheroes are outsiders. I mean, Batman, Bruce Wayne, even though he's wealthy and clearly Gentile, is not playing well with others. I mean, he's not invited to be with everybody else. Superman is the ultimate outsider. He's the sole survivor of his planet. And if you look through a lot of characters, certainly the Marvel characters of the 60s, the Hulk, Spider-Man, these are all people outside the norm, and maybe there is some subconscious or at least a connection between Jewish artists and writers and those characters.
Great. So just to finish up, just for fun, if each of you had to pick one favorite superhero, I know it's a really difficult question, but if you really had to at gunpoint.
Well, I didn't grow up in Queens, but Spider-Man's my favorite. I had a Spider-Man lunchbox, a Spider-Man trash can, and there was something, my father's a scientist, there's something about that scientific bent that makes me identify with Peter Parker, and my spider senses are tingling.
And I have to be a little perverse. My favorite hero is actually a pulp hero who went into the comics, and that's Doc Savage, who is a sort of self-proclaimed Superman who had a superior intellect and did calisthenics.
Man of Bronze.
The Man of Bronze, exactly, 3 hours a day, and lived on the Empire State Building. So he was, to me, the American story writ large, that if you worked hard and you studied your algebra and did your calisthenics, you too could be a world-saving superhero.
Great, so thank you both for being with us once again. This is Laurence Maslon and Michael Kantor. The book is Capes, Cowls, and the Creation of Comic Book Culture, Superheroes. So thank you for joining us at Studio JW.